8 minutes past 8 a.m. East African time. Welcome back. This is Morning Cafe. So you're probably watching this with your children there, your parent, rather you're a guardian, and you're watching this with your child there. And he or she closed the schools at around 27th of October. So that means they've been with you for a week or two now. Kwa fridge, they're really emptying things there. And you're wondering, how do I keep my children busy? How do I keep my child busy during this school, during this whole long holiday? They will be at home with you for about 2 months plus more days, because they're opening schools at around 8th of January. So that's quite a long time to keep your child busy, you know, really interacting with them. They just have the right minds to discuss this conversation as kids and holidays, and how to keep your children engaged during this school holidays. On my left, Brian Ouma, who's a teacher and also the founder of Distance Advantage Learning and Mentorship. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
In a nutshell, what does Distance Advantage Learning and Mentorship, DALM, really talk about?
DALM is an organization that I founded together with colleagues from different institutions. Basically, what we do, we try to ease the pressure from the parents during the holiday. We engage the students cognitively and technically. We engage them in a number of subjects, and we also offer mentorship program.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Nuru Luhindi, who's the founding director of Little Innovators School and Innovators EdTech Hub.
Yes.
So I'm getting, even from the name, really has to do with matters innovation, matters tech. And well, when you say Little Innovators, what age are you really targeting here?
Okay, thank you very much. Little Innovators School starts from playgroup and goes all the way to junior secondary school. And at Innovators EdTech Hub, now it's a bigger picture. We're not just focusing on our children at our school. We are preparing generations for the future of work by training them in emerging technologies, because we are told by World Economic Forum that 66% of primary school children will end up in careers that don't exist. So we want children to be familiar with the technologies that will create those careers.
Ah, fantastic.
Yes.
And finally, Duncan Rasuku, Strategy and Operations Lead at Do It With Boldness Foundation. You're really training children out here to be bold. Tell us about more of this foundation.
Thank you so much. Do It With Boldness focuses on self-mastery, and it targets a group of students and young people between the ages of 12 and 17, just to make them understand themselves. Who are they, and what are the opportunities that are available outside them. And we also try to build their self-esteem so that they are able to stand out and speak out. So we have two projects that we do under that, two programs, I mean. Now, one focuses on students' empowerment, where we move from one school to another, just to try to make them understand self and make them to be outside there and be able to compete worldwide. The second perspective is for the community, where we have community mentorship program, where we bring together parents, bring together community leaders, and we bring together the voices of the community, so that it is an integrated system that they are able to work together to ensure that the youth between the ages 12 and 17 are able to understand themselves, that even as they pursue their careers, as they pursue professional and personal activities, they are able to understand, who am I and what do I want to achieve.
All right.
So that is generally what the Do It With Boldness Foundation do.
So which communities are we talking here? I mean, and regions, because even as you continue this conversation, you will realize that some regions are better advantaged when it comes to even children who are there, when it comes to them enjoying their holidays, while others, they remember they're going for a holiday and they're just stressed out. I mean, I remember back in school, some of, you know, the kids that were there, other students, and they remember that they're going back home, even for the holidays, and they just tell you, no, I don't really want to go back, because they enjoy, you know, being at home. I mean, being big in school, because they do with other parents, with other children and all that. So which kind of regions does the foundation really touch on?
We majorly focused on vulnerable and underserved communities. First, we started with Nairobi, where we're focusing on Korogocho slums. So we could bring the pupils together and the students together during holidays. We organized for them a mentorship camp. Now, during the mentorship camp that majorly takes 4 to 5 days, we bring different partners together and we take them through a session, a 5-day session of life skills training. And the life skills training, they are able to understand themselves and they're also able to interact with one another. Now we focus on 2 things, which is education and the social perspectives. So we bring them together to make them understand that regardless of where they are at that moment, they're still able to make it and compete with another person who is in an environment which is well served. Now the other place that we focus on is in Kajiado County. Now Kajiado County, we have 2 centers. Now the first center is in Kajiado Central, the other one is in Kajiado South. Now in these 2 centers, we also organize mentorship camps. We realized that in Kajiado, most of the children, they don't value education. And this depends on the social perspectives that are in that place. And so we try to nurture them in a way that they are able to focus their minds from what is in the environment towards education. So we also organize a 5-day mentorship camp where we reside in those places together with other partners so that we bring their minds focused towards education. The other place that we joined recently is in Nyanza, Siaya, where we have also realized that the trend for education is going down. And so we also try to empower them and ensure that they are able to rise again and be able to stand out there. Right. So those are the 3 places that we focus on as a community-based. Okay. But again, we also walk from one school to another to provide mentorship opportunities for the students while they are in school. You understand, most students go to school, but when they get to that place, they forget why they are there because of peer influence. So we start with them from the first form. From Form 1, we take them through orientation. So there are schools that we are partner with where we go there and offer Form 1 orientation. You see, in big schools, let me say so, they get an opportunity to go through orientation for a period of 1 week. Yes. But you see, in these underserved communities or schools, they are not able to afford that. So we go fill that gap so that they're able to understand and feel the school culture. Right. Yes.
And Luhindi, when you talk about holidays, even for children, the first thing that comes to mind is, I'm going to have fun. Yes. It's 2 months, I'm having fun, yes. Dad and mom, you know, even the guardian. When it comes to matters academics, they'd really, you know, put it aside a bit. I mean, I remember even in my times, you'd probably just finish, if you're given homework, yes. You finish it while in school, before you actually close. Yeah. You know, the few days to closing, you're finishing it up. Yeah. And the first week, from there, you know, I don't have any other homework to do. Yeah. All that time is, you know, just having fun. Yes. But then how, even for the parent, how do you really balance so that you ensure that, well, as much as my child has finished their homework that they were given, they can still be innovative and all that, even, you know, they keep on learning each and every day. It doesn't really have to be physical books and all that. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stanley. So there's a Kiswahili saying, samaki mkunje, angali mbichi. And there is actually when we put in innovation must be fun. So what happens is at Innovators EdTech Hub, we work with other schools. We do programs both during the term and over the holiday. And now when we do holiday programs, there are many ways it can be done. We can either go to a school, conduct that program in the school, and of course, usually holiday programs have a lot of fun activities, team building, art and craft, and many other fun activities the children can do away from books. Then when we can also decide to take a venue, a central venue, like in January we did at Kenya National Library in Upper Hill, where now we were conducting the robotics and emerging technologies training, like virtual reality. Yeah, we even do 3D printing. Like this is a whistle printed by learners during the camp. It's a 3D printed whistle. Can I test it?
Oh yes.
Any age, yes. So it's a working whistle, which is actually printed. And why are we doing this? we want not just children, but even parents to realize that the world is changing. This will greatly affect manufacturing.
Oh, yes.
Because people will now shift towards printing the things they need at home. So we try to create fun within emerging technologies training, because now, like when they were doing virtual reality in January, it is related to this game that most parents hear in their homes, Roblox. Yeah, most parents hear kids, they want to play Roblox. But now there's a very constructive side to Roblox. The child can actually be the one to create the Roblox experience. Think of architects. They've come up with a plan for a house, and they want to sell the houses off plan. So if you're going to sell the houses off plan, as much as the show house is not there, the customers need to have a feel of how it is like to be in that unit. So using virtual reality, these children can be able to support architects in creating a real experience of going into a house, opening the doors, moving into the rooms, and actually getting a virtual experience of a house. So we try to make it fun by having activities that make it interesting, by creating games. So like when you're teaching gaming, these children are going to learn how to create games, not just for fun, but even for educational games, for edutainment.
And I'm imagining this is probably a 15-year-old or even a 14-year-old learning how to make that.
No, we have curriculum that starts from preschool all the way to university.
I'm saying now hypothetically,
yes.
Probably a 12-year-old
yes.
learning how to make all that, even yes. A whistle like that.
Exactly. Like, so this was, preschool had their own whistles, which they made, and grade 1 to 3, then grade 4 to 7, and then the older kids. So each group had their own project, and each child made a whistle with a name on it, their own name on it.
All right, and even as we jump into what she's talking about, because what DALM really does is sort of similar. And I'm taking a look at the website here, www.dalm.co.ke, and it's asking me if you really want to get a subject expert, giving me the best industry leaders, study objects online, even having a book library. For DALM, because you're really incorporating even for the students when they're at home, they get a tutor, face-to-face with them. They also get, even as the website is asking me, they get to learn different subjects. Take us through how this works. Even they closed end of October, they'll be opening by January. So does that mean no fun for the students? They just get into, the parent decides you're getting into DALM, and this is what you're doing that entire time.
Thank you, Stanley. First and foremost, at DALM, we really discourage parents to force their students to enroll in the program. Mm-hmm. We encourage the parents to talk to the kids so that they are willing to join the program, because it is a program that involves learning. And most of the time, the students are just from school. So at DALM, we normally give students time. For example, this time round, they closed at 27th. Now, our program started this Monday, that is on 6th of November, and we are running up to 15th of December. Our program is just a step away from structured school, whereby the students are flexible to attend the lesson when they are available. It doesn't
have to be fixed that if it's 8 a.m. lesson, it's 8 a.m.
Yes. So what the tutors do, if a student is not there, normally when they teach, they record the lessons. So that if a student will not be there, then the student, when this student finds time, then he can come back and listen to the recorded lesson. So this will be very convenient for the student. Furthermore, at DALM, we make learning fun. How? For example, a subject like mathematics. Most people, even if I ask here in the panel, most people will say that math was my problem. But now, how do we make it fun?
Mathematics fun.
Yeah. We make it realistic. We make math realistic. we make students to relate to math, to see maths in their daily lives. We integrate learning using videos, learning using practicals, because nowadays online we even have virtual libraries where you can, for example, if you are teaching a topic like longitudes and latitudes, the students are able to see the globe, and they are able to see perfectly the longitudes and the latitudes, and how to find the distance in the real life, not something that is just learned on the structured school whereby a teacher dictates on the board and the student is not able to see the visual aspect of the maths.
Probably I needed that to pass my maths exam.
Exactly. Furthermore, at DALM, we also do introduction to coding. We teach languages like Python and C++. These are vocational skills that will be very handy to the students when they finish their high school and they're going to campus. Because just from Nuru, technology is the future. Something like AI and machine learning, that is the future. If we cannot invest in that now as parents, then we are going to take our kids through schools, and after school, they'll not be employed. They'll not have employable skills.
All right. And let's now take these children away from the whole learning system and just put them outside. I'm taking a look at even the photo that we have as a background here. And this are young, children really being adventurous. And should we really be having these children being too adventurous? Where do you draw the line for the child and tell them, well, when you menda hivyo, hizo nguo, wewe ukirarua ni wewe, ukichafua ni wewe, should you just give them that limit and tell them, even if they're going to even identify themselves, well, as long as they had fun?
I think that is an interesting one. But you see, children are adventurous in nature. Yeah, a young child should be allowed to explore, as long as he or she doesn't go beyond the boundaries that is ethical.
So which boundaries, as a parent, do you set these boundaries for the child and tell them, okay, fine, I let you go and play, but I'm giving you a curfew. Don't be back as late as this time. When you leave, don't make sure that you leave the house at this time. Make sure you do A, B, C, and D.
You see, the role of a parent is to guide. The role of a parent is to guide. Bring your children under control, right? And one thing that we teach or that we guide children or the young people is how to manage your time well, right? You have a 24-hour day, and there are activities that attracts your attention. But again, you need to plan them within your day and also observe the guidelines of the home. And so I will really urge parents that it is important that you guide your children. Give them guidelines, that they are able to operate within that specific guideline. Maybe a child may go beyond either 15 or 20 minutes beyond the guideline, but let them have a guideline. This will help them so that they are able to run the activities well, but within a specific scope. So that you don't just leave them in an unstructured way. Now we tell them, you have a 24-hour system, but you have to still manage this time. So that at a point where your friend calls you to go for a party, let me say now I'm talking to big children, ages 12 to 17.
Yeah.
Your friend just calls you that, oh, James, we need to go to a party, but you didn't plan it in your daily activities. What do? You schedule it and say, let us go tomorrow. With that, it helps them to go beyond and be able to run the activities well. But I agree, children should be allowed to be adventurous. But let them be adventurous in what they are interested in.
But then, Luhindi, so how much input does the child have in this? I mean, as he says, this particular party, maybe my friend tells me I have a party. Probably I'm a young child there, maybe even in high school or maybe even in primary school.
Yes.
And the child tells the parent that my friend has a party and I would like to go. But then because it was not planned, you're told no, that is not happening. So how much input does the child have, even in some of these rules that are made in the house, some of these guidelines? Does the child have a say in some of this?
That's a good question, Mr. Stanley. And yes, the child has a say. Instilling of values from an early age is critical.
Sure.
And once the right values have been instilled in a child, they will be able to make responsible, independent decisions, even without the input of the parent. So, like I said earlier, samaki mkunje, angali mbichi. Because if you're teaching this child right from the time they've learned how to speak the first word, that structure is important, discipline is important, honesty is important, integrity is important. And that is why at Little Innovator School we focus on value-based education, because we don't just want to produce geniuses who lack values. Those will be very detrimental to the society. So now, when it comes to that point, they've been invited to a party. As a parent, teach the child negotiation skills.
Sure.
Let them have the ability to say, okay, Dad, yes, I know it's time to do this, but Mary has really been helping me a lot with my assignment, and I think it's only fair that I actually attend this. Dad, can you just make an exception? So you're teaching this child to have those negotiation skills which they will use in their future life, even as they transact their own businesses.
But then Oma, still on the whole hypothetical, being invited to a party, because I think maybe nishaikuwa huko back then, and I can't even remember the response I was given. But still on this hypothetical, the kind of, probably the parent says, no, you're not going. Maybe if, the child is free, but then they don't really trust this Mary. They don't trust the, the values the Mary has, the hypothetical friend. Probably the parent has seen Mary maybe saying some things, maybe doing some things that maybe the parent doesn't really seem to say this is right. So how do you really, okay, being told that you're going on a short break, then in a sentence or two, even we can really come to finish it up. So how do you really ensure that you trust the friends of your children?
Okay, thank you, Stanley, for a very good question. I believe that a family and a home is a very important institution in the growth and development of a child. A parent should, actually during holiday, as educators, we encourage parents to interact and create a bond with their kids, so that they get to know, and the kids get to tell them stories, and in those stories, they're going to tell them about their friends, so that the parent is in a position to understand the kind of friends that interacts with the kid. As a parent, I strongly believe that you need to know the kind of kids that are friends to your kids.
Sure.
That is very much important. That is where, if you don't know, and if your kid is interacting with wayward kids, that is where you find your kid getting into bad behaviors. And that is why at DALM, we do mentorship program so as to impart life skill to these students.
All right. Hold that thought. I'm curious what both of you really have to say on the whole matters trust issues, because it might be really a delicate issue. I mean, you're saying, I don't trust this 12-year-old. You don't really have a solid reason because, well, you don't really like how they talk back to you. We're really curious on that. And even for the viewer, maybe you're a young parent, you can really throw in those particular questions for our guests this particular morning at TV47 KE, on Facebook at TV47 News, that is on X. Stick around for that. back, and this particular morning we're discussing how to engage your children when it comes to this long holidays. I mean, your children are with you for like 2 months plus some days. So how do you really engage them? And before the break, we're really getting into Omar really responding on the whole matters trust issues. And Lucinda, I'll get now, how do you trust your child and even your friends, you know, the friends of your children, to really say, okay, fine, I trust that when you go to this party, you'll come back at this, you know, specific time that I told you. Or when I told you go out and play, make sure that you don't come back with torn clothes.
Yes. So like I said before, it has to start from an early age. You nurture this child right from the beginning, including even being truthful. Because if a child is truthful and maybe their friend is doing something that is unethical, they'll be open about it. So right from that time, even before the child starts speaking, we should role model to them the values you want to see in them. They should see it from the friends we have ourselves as adults, because children tend to do more of what they see than what we tell them to do. So apart from role modeling, also nurturing this child, mentoring them and teaching them values that will help them to safeguard themselves. Because when a child is taught values well, like truthfulness, God-fearing, it is not easy for them to get involved with somebody, for instance, who does drugs. Because already, by having that good spiritual foundation, they get to learn that these things are not right. So you will even trust your child in your absence to be able to make responsible, independent decisions. Because as a parent, you can't always be there.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is to empower them to make the decisions themselves, so that you don't have to keep hovering around their backs.
And now on that bit, the whole hovering, you know, on the backs, I want to get into the whole supervision kind of, you know, bit, which really ties to what you're talking about. And you had talked about the kind of activities that, you know, children will really do. And even as you continue, you can really throw in some of these tips and the kind of activities that children should be engaged in. But then, so how does a parent really supervise a child? Give us the kind of, even for the parents watching us this morning, the tips that they should know and have when it comes to supervising.
Thank you so much, Stanley. Now, one thing that we focus on so much is note-taking. Being able to capture every element that you do in a single day, right? And so we majorly take these kids through how you're able to capture everything that you do on a single day, right? And then we also tell them, plan your day before you go to bed, right? So if they are able to plan their day before they go to bed and present it to their parents are able to know, my child today has planned this. Of course, we are focusing on the ages 12, and we believe at age 12, you are able to capture well what you need to do in a single day. So you'll capture what you need to do in a single day, present to your parent, and your parent tells you, gives you a go-ahead, do it as you had planned. When the parent comes back in the evening, you are able to check. So you instruct your child, every activity that you do, kindly put a tick beside it. So they put a tick beside every activity they do in a day. When the parent comes back in the evening, you simply check, my child presented this to me, has he or she actually done that?
And where they have been.
Yes. So in cases where they have not done, you're also able to just ask politely, you had planned this. This is coming from you.
Yeah.
It's not actually from the parent. It's coming from the child to the parent. You had planned this for the day. What was the challenge? And then we also encourage the kids to be able to note down their achievements in a single day. Are you able to capture your achievements in a single day? And are you able to capture your failures in a single day? So that the parent is also able to check and realize that today my child achieved this, but my child failed in this. And then you try to conceptualize what could have been the challenge. You give the child an opportunity to express himself or herself to the parent.
So what I'm getting from you is,
Yes.
you can really do this, away from, you know, how Nero's really putting it, without actually being present.
Yes.
And, you know, and trusting them and saying they have maybe 5 tasks for the day, they'll achieve it. Yes. But then now even for the parent who's really at home, should now the parent really be hovering and saying, I told you to wash dishes, so maybe an hour later you come and see how they're actually washing these dishes, maybe how they're even washing the car, or, doing maybe gardening and all that?
Of course, that is very important. At every time you may go and check, my child talked about doing this. How did she do it, right? Or how did he do it? You check, but again, you cannot be present every single day to check that. But at least you know your child. There's something they mentioned, or Nuru mentioned, about being able to understand, instill values. So once you instill values, you're able to know, my child is this kind of a child. There are those who are perfectionists. They will actually do it well. But there are those who just rush to do it. But again, you need to understand your child. So operate with your child within the understanding of your child.
And even as we are engaging these children during these holidays and some of these activities that you were mentioning, for example, even the whole, maybe let's say cleaning the house, maybe even if it's gardening, there's a major issue that really comes here, rewarding them. Even monetary value, or you tell them, ukifanya hii, if you do A, B, C, and D, this weekend I'll take you somewhere. Or probably if you do this and this, I'm giving you 500 shillings today. Is that allowed?
Thank you, Stanley. First and foremost, I'll say that as a parent, you're a manager. Mm-hmm. You're a manager, and the best secret of management is presence. Mm-hmm. You've given your kid a role to do. I would really not emphasize the reward, but it must at least be there once in a while, but you should not overdo it. Mm-hmm. Yes. Personally, I'll say...
What's overdoing?
Overdoing is like, today, sweep the living room. Then you give him 1,000 shillings. Maybe wash the car, you give him 2,000. Maybe
but he or she has earned it.
But now, that will the kid now will grow with the mentality that whenever I do something, I have to be given something. So it will be like, anytime you are doing something, there must be exchange of hands.
Exactly.
A reward should not be predictable. Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll borrow that. The kid should never predict that if I do this, then I'll be given this.
Yes.
That is the mentality that is ailing our society as Kenyans. That is a mentality that is really ailing our society as Kenyans, because you find somebody has been given a responsibility. This is a responsibility that is supposed to do free of charge, but he needs something. Where did it come from? It came from the first institution that somebody attends, that is the family. The parent grew in this child that whenever I do something, I have to be given something. So I'll really not discourage rewarding, but how often do you reward? How often do you reward?
Right. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure some would argue that if you're really good at something, then you should not really be doing it for free out here. And not even as you come in on the same.
Yes.
So now how do you really reward? If you're going to, let's say, I'm going to be rewarding my child in a very unpredictable manner.
Yes.
How do you now reward them?
Very good question, Mr. Stanley. At Little Innovators School, we've been focusing on a growth mindset for a whole year now on our learners. And that is something we emphasize to them every single day. So for a child to have a growth mindset, they need to have a vision. So as young as a child is, first they need to understand what a vision is in an age-appropriate language. And then you challenge them to set a goal for themselves. So if reward can be done from the bigger picture perspective, it will be rewarding, because now you're not rewarding the child for every single thing they're doing, but you have set a long-term goal. And you're telling the child, if you improve the way your communication skills, it doesn't even have to be academics all the time. If you improve your communication skills within this period of time, and I notice that you're self-driven, you don't have to be pushed around to do the things you're supposed to do, then we're going to have a reward. And you're not even telling the child what this reward is. So that the child does not instill it in themselves that they always have to be rewarded, and that kills the spirit of volunteerism. Because for society's good, we have the less fortunate, the underserved, like the people that Mr. Duncan is serving. How, when they get skills in the future, let's take for instance now, like the way we are training our children to solve problems using emerging technologies, how will they go to that slum area and do community service? Because they'll be expecting a return, and yet this poor community cannot be able to pay them back. So it needs to be balanced, the way we reward children, so that they also understand that sometimes you do things for the good of society. And we talk about the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which the topmost is self-actualization. We need to teach children how to become self-actualized right from an early age. And a self-actualized person is someone who does something not for their own good, but for the better of society.
Right.
And Stanley, just a quick one. Huh? You see, most parents nowadays confuse reward with bribing. Yeah?
What's the difference?
You see, currently you expect your child to do something, but you give him money first, right? Yes, and reward has more or less become a bribe, right? Do this, if you do this, I will bring for you this in the evening when I come back, right? So the child does the task based on the promise. And you see that I necessarily don't look at it as a reward, but it is more of a bribe, right? You should, as Nuru had said, allow your children to set goals for themselves. Allow them to set goals. And that is why I said on a daily basis, be able to bring out what you are able to do in a day. And when they hit it without your expectation or being present, you can reward, right? But don't make it look like a bribe. When your child performs a duty, she will definitely get something.
Right.
Thank you.
And Rasugu, now even away from the whole matters,
Yes.
Rewinding and bribing. Right now, even this morning, it was raining cats and dogs.
Yes.
And this is across different parts of the country. So I'm imagining most parents would advise their children to enjoy the early holidays with some indoor activities instead of outdoor activities, because in most parts of the country probably it will be flooding, the whole muddy and all that. So what kind of activities can really be done in an indoor activity, in an indoor setup that really cuts across whichever either someone is really well off or they coming from not too good family. Which kind of indoor activities can they really do?
Thank you so much. Of course, in the village, when we are young, we enjoy playing in the mud with friends. That could make it all enjoyable. But again, you have activities that you can do. Some of them is just preparing a simple meal. It's an activity. Huh? You see, a child in upper class is able to prepare a specific meal different from what a child in the village is able to prepare. Maybe a child in the village will just prepare some render, right? And you learn the skills, right? Another thing that you're able to do is the darts, the simple darts that you can do. Huh? Of course, in the village, you can arrange a few stones together and ensure they are aligned well, right? Yeah. But in the upper class, maybe you have good items that you can use. So those are some of the things you can do, but again, you can also read. Yeah, just get a storybook. In the village, you could get some simple storybooks and just read. In the other place, you can still get another book and just read. Right? Those are activities that you can do when you are in the house. Yes.
All right. And Luhindi, 2 months might really be enough for a child to learn a new skill, right? Probably they wanted to learn, let's say, a new language, Spanish, French, or even the, mother tongue.
Yes.
How beneficial can this really be for them?
For the foreign languages?
Yes, and even learning a new skill altogether.
New skill.
Yeah.
It's very critical, and it goes back to the growth mindset that I had said. And really, there's no limitation in terms of nurturing a growth mindset in a child. And I think for every parent, as their children go for holiday, that should be the cornerstone of the decisions they're making. How do I expand my child's perspective? And a foreign language can be very good because, as we know, it opens doors in terms of boundaries as to where the child can work and apply their skills. But also, I usually say children nowadays do not really know how to play. Like if you don't give them a digital gadget,
yes,
they'll be stuck. Unlike during our days, you know, you're put in an open field, and trust me, you will have a game to play. In an open field full of grass and mud, you'll have a game to play. So what we do at Little Innovator School is we teach a lot on recycling. And this doesn't have to be a well-off child. Any child can do this. So we call them STEM activities using recycling. So for example, they've drunk water, mom has thrown away a used water bottle. Then all of a sudden, maybe their DVD recorder is not working, so it's been discarded. So in STEM activities, we teach children how to have fun and make useful either toys or things that can be used at home using waste materials. And what this does is it develops critical thinking in the child, it develops problem solving, and they learn to make the most out of the least they have, because they are turning waste material into something useful. So I think that can be a good challenge for a parent to give their child. I want to see how best you can make use of waste materials in the house this holiday to make something useful. So this child will get curious and start searching. In case they have access to the internet, they look at DIY, do-it-yourself activities, and learn how to make something out of trash, which will be part of our SDG 13 on climate action, reducing harming the environment.
But then, that whole bit of the child going back to the gadget, going for some, do-it-yourselves, really prolongs the screen time. The parent might really be trying to limit. And I think I'd probably remember when I was growing up, my parent would probably say, TV time ends this time, starts this time, ends this time. The other time, no gadgets. So how, I'd imagine even for DALM, for example, the lesson, the entire lesson for the day is about cumulatively, let's say, 3 hours. So that means the child is on the screen for about 3 hours. After that, they'll still be on the gadget. Let's say if it's a laptop, or a tablet, doing other stuff. That really limits the whole time they can have to do other activities. So how does a parent limit and say, you'll be having this gadget from this time to this time, and from there, no gadgets. And the child is comfortable with that.
Stanley, thank you. I think the parent need to limit the usage of gadget. Much exposure of screen time, research has shown that it even affects the eyesight. So how will the parent ensure that the kid is using the gadget within specific period? There are Google apps in the Play Store that can put restrictions on the time the kid will be using maybe his tablet. Another example will be the parent can limit the time Wi-Fi is on in the house. For example, if he's able to remotely, maybe the parent is at his workplace, then the parent can remotely switch off the Wi-Fi. Maybe the classes are from 8 to maybe 1 p.m. Like in DALM, we have classes from 8 to 1 p.m. Then after that, a parent will see that it is prudent for the parent to get away from the screen. So the parent will switch off the Wi-Fi, and therefore this will ensure that the kid is limited to the use of the gadgets at home.
Right. And still on the same, Hindi.
Yes.
How to really limit that gadget, even for the child, and put boundaries and say, this is the time limit for you, and how to even communicate, because I feel like COVID really taught us. I mean, taking us back to matters of COVID, and parents were really shocked, and you're having the child there for months on end, and you really have to put a balance for the child and say, this is the time I'm giving you for the gadget, and this is the time you really have to do away with the gadget. And really to have the child sit comfortably and say, fine, I agree, I'm not going to hold this gadget. How do you put that balance?
Okay. Again, it goes back to nurturing. How has this child been nurtured? We are instilling discipline into this child. And one of the most challenging values for a parent to instill is integrity. Because if a parent successfully instills integrity in a child, honesty, then once they know I have created a discipline system for my child, they will trust that even if they're away at work, this child at exactly this time will get off the gadget. And again, it goes back to trusting in God, because a child should not have a parent around for them to do the right thing. At the end of the day, God is watching all of us. So a child should have that mentality, even if mom is not here, even if dad is not here, auntie is not here, but God is here. And mom and dad want the best for me. And if I'm too much exposed to screen time, it's going to hurt my eyes, it's going to hurt my creativity, because there's some research that has been done that too much exposure to screen time also reduces creativity and imagination. They did that research between children in urban areas and those in rural areas. So those in rural areas were found to have a much higher level of creativity, and they attributed it to exposure to TV and other screen time for children in urban areas. So sometimes if we explain to the child why, the why behind it, then they'll know it is for my own good. If I do this, I'm killing my creativity. I'm killing the power of my brain to come up with new ideas. And I want to be a genius. I want to be a successful entrepreneur. Yeah. So I'll not do that for my own sake.
Right. And probably not saying Jumam na dad ulisema.
Exactly.
Probably they have a whole reason behind it.
Yeah.
And even for a young parent out here, yes. Let's go back to the whole COVID time. From where you sit, what really major did the whole COVID times really teach you? Even when it comes to communicating between the parent and the child.
You see, when COVID hit, many parents didn't know how to live with their children. Actually, there were a lot of complaints. How am I going to stay with this child for this period, right? Mm. So it really built on connection. How well do you link with your child, right? How do you click, right? Or are you the traditional parents that says my word is final, right? So it gives you an opportunity to be with your kid in the house 24 hours a day for all that period. And so you get to understand your child. You see, sometimes you are called to a school and you are told your child has done this, but you totally have a different perspective of whom your child is.
Yeah.
Right? So it gives them an opportunity, it gives parents an opportunity to understand your child deeper and be able to connect with your child. Right? And so I believe that most parents understood the virtues and the vices of their children at that time.
Right.
And so I believe that the COVID was, let me say, an intentional way to bring back parents to connect with their children, so that you don't really just understand your child on the positive, but you're also able to understand your child on the negative. Right. You are able to know what is the extreme of my child.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me get the final thoughts. I'll start with you, even as we come this way.
Thank you so much, Stanley. One thing is we, at Do It With Boldness Foundation, we build on 3 C's: character, competence, and connections. That is, character, we try to make sure that you understand who you are as a child. Now, as parents, I will encourage that they be able to make their children understand who they are and instill values from a young child. Let your child know that this is the family values. This is what guides this family. And so they have to operate within that framework. I'm sure parents may not be so strict on their children to an extent that they fail to adventure. But I would also want to encourage them that they be able to shape the character of their children at a very early age, so that when they grow up, they are able to stand with that and make good decisions.
Hindi, your final thoughts?
Yes, let us nurture a growth mindset in our children as they go through this holiday. And we have at Little Innovators School organized a camp at the Kenya National Library, Upper Hill, that will be starting on Monday next week. And then subsequently, 1 week after that, we'll be doing it at the Kenya National Library in Buruburu. Mm-hmm. And also we are having something for the Great Wall residents in Athi River. So we do not want a repeat of what happened in the 90s, early 90s, when so many Kenyans lost their jobs because that was the computerization age and we lacked computer skills. So let us help these children to fit and be innovators and entrepreneurs of the future by learning emerging technologies like robotics, artificial intelligence, and so on.
Fantastic. Your final thoughts?
Okay. My parting shot will be that I'll advise parents that let us not make education be for grades, but let us make education be for character development. And then education should be made fun. Math should be made fun. Computer science, introduction to coding should be made fun, because learning actually increases dopamine in the body.
All right.
So, as we take through students during this holiday,
okay,
we at DALM, we make the student develop creativity and reasoning and making decision.
Right.
Thank you.
Asante sana, Brian Ouma, teacher and also founder of Distance Advantage Learning and Mentorship. Nurul Hindi, founding director, Little Innovators School, as well as Innovators Tech Hub. And finally, Duncan Rasugu, strategy and operations lead at Do It With Boldness Foundation. Asanteni sana, I've learned a lot. I've been writing notes. I'm not a parent yet, but I'll be referring to this in the future when I am, and hopefully you have also learnt a lot. And with your child there at home, don't be worried that atakula chakula yote kwa fridge amalize na kazi tu ni kusumbua. Be with that child and refer to this conversation on how to actually live and learn with this child there. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we'll be giving you more. So stick around right here on Morning Cafe.